Welcome back to the Sacred Arts Academy, where we talk about all things from the sacred to the practical. Today, we have a very special guest, Laurie Parente. She is well known in mediumship, angel connections, and meditative healing journeys. As a CEO and founder of Parente Inner Harmony Academy, Laurie offers private one-on-one sessions and quarterly live Reclaim Your Light healing courses. Her passion lies in fostering genuine connections for her clients with their inner wisdom and spiritual support teams. Welcome, Laurie.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. I'm especially interested in your story because I had read that you discovered your spiritual gifts sometime in your 40s. Can you tell us a little bit about what prompted the awakening, what your kind of history was in the past, and how you kind of moved into this realm?
Absolutely. Well, it was definitely an awakening in my 40s, but it's more of like a reclaiming of what I always knew to be there, which we always, when we look back, right? I was very in tuned as a child, and it didn't go over very well. You know, it was the 1970s, and if you told people there was an angel on their lawn, it didn't really go over that well. So I learned that my gifts as a child kind of needed to be stuffed down. And then as a teenager, honestly, they scared me. So moving on to my 20s, my mother died when I was in my mid 20s, and kind of some stuff started coming through, but then there was so much pushback from the people around me that I just kept it quiet. 30s were spent busy raising four children. And then in my 40s, it just got so loud. I couldn't ignore it anymore. It was like the pain of not being authentic with who I was getting so loud. Um, that I just needed to look into it. And the day I made the decision, okay, I'm going to do something with this, I was on Facebook, and of course, a course on mediumship popped up, and I just went with it, right? And the very first, it was James Von Prague, and the very first meditation he led us through, I met with my mom and my nana in spirit. But it was like almost like an out of body experience where the three of us were just lights. It was just our soul lights. And it changed me instantly because in that moment, I knew we are more than just our physical bodies. We're more than just our physical existence, that we are these cosmic lights that are having a human experience. And it just blew everything wide open in that moment. And I was able to reclaim all of those gifts that I'd been stuffing down for so long.
That's so beautiful. I really love that story. And I love that you started with James Van Prague. I'm a very huge fan of his. And um, can you tell us a little bit about how you've developed your gifts since reclaiming um, that for yourself?
I'm very intellectual. And so I went down the road of just taking as many courses on as many things as I possibly could. Um, and it got so that I had all of this knowledge, but it almost got confusing, right? Like it was almost too much. And I had to really sit back and go within and connect with my team and say, now you lead, now you teach me. And I used to imagine it as like a big, huge boardroom coming from the corporate world, right? And I was the CEO at the end of and I would say, who wants to teach me today? Who wants to show me today? And my guides would take me on all these fantastic journeys where I would reclaim more and more of how my gifts work. And it was really cool because it was like I'd taken in all this knowledge and then I had all this wisdom and it just came together and gelled.
Hmm. Oh, that's so amazing. How do you explain angel mediumship to someone who's maybe new to the concept?
I like to say, many people have called me an angel incarnate, an angel incarnate. You know, like I carry angelic frequencies. I have memories of being in the angelic realm, and so I tap into that, and I'm able to tap into it for messages and support, and also for healing. And I do find that sometimes we get a little too caught up in which angel is it? What's their job? What do they do? What does this one do for me? And so I just call it generally my angels. And when I work with clients, I just say your angels. And the best one will come through for what you're going through right now to give you support and guidance.
Oh, that sounds incredible. I do think that we do get caught up in the semantics or the wanting to know the details. And a lot of this work is all around surrender, which
Mhm.
can be difficult. Do you have any experience in, kind of going down that road of surrender and anything that you can kind of tell our audience about how you do that?
Well, we know that when in that moment when you let go is when the answers come, right? So for myself, it's about getting out of my head because I know that those thoughts will go. So it's I use a technique that I learned from Sonia Choquette when I was studying with her. It was like, okay, I know what my head's saying, but what is my heart saying? And moving that energy down to my heart and listening for those answers, and then not having any expectations, just listening and going with what I receive. And to me, that's surrender because I'm surrendering to that higher voice.
That's so good because we live in our heads. A lot of the times we just don't know that we're just constantly here and we forget to come back into our bodies. And then I also love that you presenced no expectations because
Right?
I think that that really clouds, you know, the magic of what's going to happen.
It took me a long time to really understand that expectations are resistance,
Mm,
right? By putting that expectation, like the universe knows so much more than we do, and putting our own expectations on it, we're having resistance to what the true scope of things could be.
yeah. That's so good. Now, I know that you use various modalities in your practice, including energy healing, channeling angelic light language. Could you describe one of these techniques and its potential benefits?
Which one do you feel would be more beneficial for your audience? Or which one would you like to hear about?
I'm actually interested in your energy healing practices. I know that there's so many out there, so just kind of curious on your journey on that.
So I studied quantum healing and Reiki, and because I just went in every direction you can imagine. And I think that's something that we all do. And then we kind of find our own way. And it wasn't until I studied shamanism that I really found my way in energy healing. And so I like to work with it with shamanic journeys with clients because I find that's the quickest way to release energies that are no longer serving us so that we can bring in new, right? So
Mhm.
that's my preferred way is to work in the shamanic journeys and then also working with the angelic frequencies at the same time.
Mm. I love that because I have a similar journey where I started with Reiki because I think that that's the mainstream thing right now. People are familiar with it; they know what it is, and so I think that's a great starting point. And then somehow a lot of us get led down that shamanic path, and you start to do journeying, and you kind of start to see how powerful
Mhm.
meditation and going into that shamanic state is.
Yes, I like to call it soul sanctuary, where we
Mm.
go into that place where we are just so supported and we can go in for healing or messages or ask any questions we have, um, and it becomes a very powerful way of turning up that inner voice so that we can turn down all the outer voices.
I am so proud to announce that we are launching another YouTube channel called Third Eye Wide Awake, a podcast about ghosts, cults, and deeper knowledge on spiritual stuff through storytelling. So many people struggle with limiting beliefs. I think that this is really huge in the way that people talk to themselves. Even in conversations, you can really kind of hear some of those limiting beliefs come up. What is your approach to assisting clients to identify these and releasing those barriers?
Well, I like to call them the not enoughs. And they come up in all ways, shapes, and forms, and are usually based on something from our past. So my first thing is, where are your thoughts? What are you thinking? Because often, if people said things out loud that they're thinking in their heads, they would have no friends, right? Like we're really brutal on ourselves. So what are you thinking? And I just like to encourage clients to, for a couple of days, is really be aware of their thoughts. And often that is shocking enough to them that they start to look at them. And then how do we stop those thoughts and replace them with something? And so we start off with just imagining a big stop sign in your head, like, to stop it. That's enough. You've beat yourself up enough. Nothing good is coming of it. And then just starting with the simple phrase, I'm okay, right? And then as that starts to go and you realize you don't need to think those thoughts, they're just on this repetitive loop, you can change them. Then other things, we start to work with other practices to open up to be more than okay.
It's so interesting how that simple practice really can shift not just our energy, but kind of like trajectory of where we're headed and what our path is. I know that for me personally, as soon as I started to notice, like,
Mhm.
oh, why am I saying that to myself? I would replace it with like an affirmation or quickly replace it with something new, like my whole day would change. And there's just such a powerful shift that happens.
Just you shift your whole frequency. And I love the word notice. Just
Mm-hmm.
notice,
Mm-hmm.
because that's 90% of it is noticing, right? And
Yeah.
I also will say, oh, that's a thought. Is it true? Or is it just one of these thoughts that is ready to go?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's like being that internal investigator and questioning it like, oh, that's not true. Well, where did that come from?
Right? Where did that belief come from? Is it even mine? Or was it given to me through my culture? Like, what? That's not, I don't really believe that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, some powerful stuff. Now, this question is kind of a big one because I think that a lot of us, when we start to walk a new path, and whatever it is, right, we tend to go down rabbit holes and then we start to become a little bit unbalanced. And then you start to kind of swing towards one end of the pendulum and then notice and you kind of swing back. How do you personally balance your spiritual work with your personal life, especially having four children, even though they might be grown, how do you kind of stay stay balanced?
I don't think my spiritual work is work. Like it's just what I do. It's what I am, right? And it peppers my entire day. So it's not like it's separate from everything else that I do. I said I had studied with Sonia Choquette, and she said, bring joy into every moment of your life. Like hum and sing when you're doing the dishes, when you're doing laundry, when you're taking care. Bring that joy in all the time. And that's what I see my whole spiritual progression in, is finding that joy. So I don't really think of it as a balance. I just think of it as a way of being, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure that in the beginning that what may have been a little bit of a challenge. Can you take us kind of through how you were able to take that transition?
I think the biggest challenge for me was believing in myself enough to share myself authentically. So, at first, when I would say things to my husband or my children, they'd look at me like I had three heads, and I would take that and I would walk back from it. But once I realized that was the energy that I was putting out, I wasn't sure, so that's I was getting back that pushback, and just started being authentic and not really having any care in the world what anyone thought. That was when things became so much easier. I was at an event last night, and everyone, so what do you do? What do you do? And I've made it into kind of a game where I say, are you ready? Are you really ready? And they say, yeah. I say, well, I'm a medium. And when I am so open about it, then they're open about it, right? Oh, my friend went to a medium and that's so great. And what's that like for you? You know, it opens up the conversation because my energy's open. So that's been the huge journey for me, has been just walking my walk, right?
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that because I know for me personally, and I think a lot of my listeners are going to identify with that because there is, I think, and there's this history of being burned at the stake or being shunned by community when we're sharing things that aren't um, talked about in school or things that we didn't grow up with. And so, really owning that and kind of just sharing that story of authenticity can really shift. And when you really own who you are, I think it's a lot better to be received.
Right? Because it depends what you put out. I do think there was something in what you said, about that witch wound, and that's where the shamanic journeys come in, that we do need to clear those witch wounds, right? And as we clear them for us, we clear them for our ancestry and we clear them going forward. And you feel it when that's lifted.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that self-care is really important in your practice. So what are some daily rituals or routines that you can recommend for maintaining, a well-balanced spiritual and emotional lifestyle?
For me, it's all about beauty and it's all about working with our five senses. So what are you watching? What are you taking in through your eyes? What are you smelling? What are you listening to? What are you tasting? What are you putting on your body? And is everything that you're bringing in beautiful? Are you watching beautiful things? Are you smelling beautiful smells? And then when you notice that things are beautiful, you're going to want to move your body in beautiful ways. You're going to want to eat beautiful food. You're going to want to sleep in beautiful sheets. That
Mm.
to me is self-care. What am I taking in this body of mine that's my navigation system for being here in this world? Is everything that I'm taking in through all my senses beautiful?
Wow. I love that.
I mean, we can talk about self-care, are you moving your body, but to me, it's just about noticing what you're taking in on all levels.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of messages for me here because like the shamanic path that I chose, one of the sayings that we have is Hajona Eshkli, which is all around walking in beauty. And walking in beauty directly translates to walking in right way. And it was like one of the things that the Navajo, when the cavalry came and they were in teepee and the cavalry was shooting at them, that's what they were saying. We are walking in beauty. We are walking in beauty. And the legend goes that all of the bullets went around the teepee and it saved them. No, I just got chills.
Yeah,
And so really like everything you're just saying, real I can really identify with and deepen kind of that meaning of walking in beauty and tying that directly to self-care and taking care of our emotional well-being.
right. I was feeling like if you're listening to a conversation that's not beautiful, it's your
Mm,
choice whether you're there or not,
hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that story. That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
of course. I am curious to kind of dive a little bit deeper on any memorable experiences that you've had while working with clients.
Uh, there's been many healings, which for me is always I just have so much gratitude for them. I had a dream. It was during lockdown time, and in this dream, I was in the ICU, and the ICU was filled. But then, as I woke up, everyone else started to wake up and was healed. And it just came to me that, this is my passion. This is my purpose, is to work with people for healing. So that moment when someone comes to me and says, I've had headaches my whole life and I've been living on Advil, and after our session I haven't had a headache, that to me is just, it's like my soul stands up and does the Macarena. Um, and then the other thing is when I'm leading people in these journeys and they're able to understand that they can tap into their loved ones on their own, and that they can clear up their human relationships and then relate to them soul to soul. When I'm watching them, I'll see that point where they get that communication and they know that it's genuine. And I love that.
Mm, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, you started your journey a little later in life. What advice or recommendations do you have for others that want to explore their gifts and their spirituality at any age?
I used to say, find a good teacher. Like, find somebody that you resonate with, start there, and then find a way to go within, whatever that means for you. Some people will go in through tapping or breath work or guided meditations. Find a way to listen to that inner voice and to really decide what is right for you within you. Learn what your body feels like when something's a yes and when something's a no, and just start there.
Mm, yeah, wonderful advice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Looking ahead, how do you see the field of spiritual healing or energy work and guidance evolving, and what role do you hope to play in that future?
I, like many of us, I see the role of color healing and sound healing and energy healing being the future of our world. I see the time coming when we are all able to know that we can heal ourselves no matter what's going on. And so I'm just grateful to be a part of it as it becomes more widespread in our world.
Mm, yeah, it's exciting to see how so many people are awakening all at the same time, and it's powerful.
It is, I think we've lived through millennia of having power over us, and now we're finding that power within, and it's changing our world. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about your business? How can people find you? What can they expect when they work with you?
So my website is laurieparente.com. I do one-on-one sessions, and then 4 times a year I do classes called Reclaim Your Light, and they're lined up with the solstice and the equinoxes because those are such powerful times of change. So those are online, and we work on releasing and connecting and activating gifts. So those are, I love those classes. And then I love to work with people one on one, where I bring in intuitive guidance, some mediumship, some shamanism, whatever. Once I tap in through my team to the other person's team, we find out where they're at and what they need to open up to bring in more of their soul light into their lives.
Mm. How long are the Reclaim Your Light workshops?
So they're 3-day classes, and it's an hour a day.
Okay, yeah, it's very reasonable.
Yeah.
And do you have any social medias?
I'm on Instagram at Laurie Parente, and I'm just starting a YouTube channel. I
Oh.
finally hired an assistant, so we're going forward.
Oh, that's so awesome. Congrats. I will
Thank you.
actually link all of those down below so people can find you easily. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom with us. I know that I resonated with a lot of what you had to share today, and even maybe gave me some aha moments. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
And for our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation, if you have any aha moments yourself, please comment down below, like, and subscribe. And we'll see you next week.